Today was media day at Stern Pinball for the pinball content creator world. They were kind enough to invite me out to check out their latest title, King Kong Myth of Terror Island. If you're not aware, this is the latest game designed by Keith Elwin. When we first got there, we all kind of huddled up, and then we were all sent our separate ways. We got to tour the factory, see King Kong on the assembly line. And then we headed over to the game room to check out the title, as well as hear from the man himself, Keith Elwin, about the design and development of this game. And then Seth Davis and George Gomez joined as well, alongside Zombie Yeti, aka Jeremy Packard, speaking on artwork. And on the topic of artwork, let me just go ahead and get it out of the way. I like the artwork. A lot of people on the message boards and everything are throwing a hubbub about how they dislike it, or it's not what they imagined. I will say, when I close my eyes and think of King Kong, initially I don't think of the color palette they went with, but I'm not bothered by it. Obviously, you can tell I'm a person that likes color. I'm sitting here wearing a pink donut shirt, for crying out loud. And I've said many times on this channel, I'm a Zombie Yeti fanboy. He's literally one of my favorite pinball artists, if not my favorite pinball artist. I just love what he's done with the artwork here. Again, like I said, the color palette may not be for everybody, but I like bright colors, and I think if we went with dull muted grays and just bright greens, it would not really be as interesting as it is now. And if you're trying to grow new people in the pinball world, obviously you want to grab their attention as much as possible, and bright colors do that. So thumbs up. I think the artwork package on the Pro, Premium, LE all looks great. And we had multiple artists involved. So we had Kevin O'Connor and Greg Ferreris doing the playfield, if you will, and then Zombie Yeti kind of tackling the cabinet and the back glass artwork. I love that there's, that not so subtle tip of the cap to the Data East King Kong with the center design aspect of the playfield. I think that's a nice touch. If you've ever, went down that rabbit hole and learned the history of the Data East King Kong, that, the game that almost was but never was. Definitely check it out. Like I said, again, it's great that they included little references here and there to that older title. Things like that just, are great for pinball nerds like myself that love history, and it's just, it's a nice thing to respect the history. Seen a lot of uproar on the internet message boards and everything about the artwork, and I honestly think a lot of that has to do with the fact that, like, you can't say anything bad about the game design itself because it's Keith Elwin, and clearly the man knows how to make a good playing pinball machine. So how do you attack it from another aspect? You attack the artwork. But again, art is subjective, so maybe that's the case. But honestly, I'm a fan of the artwork. Doesn't bother me. So I guess I'm in the minority on that one. On the animation side, the team definitely has their work cut out for them, because this is basically an unlicensed game, if you will. While you may know the term King Kong, this is their own creation. Myth of Terror Island, this is not the island that, King Kong originated from in any of the, the media that you're familiar with. So Stern has, full ability to kind of come up with their own animations, and they don't have movie assets to pull from or a TV show or anything to lean on. They are responsible for creating their own artwork in this world, and I think they did a really good job, especially since they have a blank slate. You can tell that they've really kind of been able to stretch themselves. The artwork and the code, and obviously everything on this game is still kind of in its early stages. It always typically takes Stern about a year to get everything fully fleshed out, but as it stood right now, is a very enjoyable game. The artworks and animations and everything I saw on the scoring display were really cool. It was really campy, and I mean that in a good way. There was a lot of nice comedy weathered in there, which gave me a lot of those early 90s Bally Williams feels to it with the, the silliness and the joking factor. I really love that, they're not being overtly serious, even though, King Kong is this massive behemoth of a character. There's a lot of great tongue-in-cheek ones. Nice inside joke references, especially the extra ball thing where King Kong will take a bite out of the ball and throw it, a not so subtle jab at the internet pundits that, have been griping for a long time about, previous game designs not having a mech that ate the ball, having, a dedicated animation that has King Kong eat the ball as, your answer to that. I thought was hilarious. But obviously, the artwork and animation team definitely going to have some longer lead times on this one, probably to flesh out some stuff, but everything I saw out there was, more than sufficient as far as what I saw. It wasn't just a stagnant image that had some moving stuff in the background. They had some pretty detailed animations, and I think they did a great job with it. When it comes to shots and layout, it really shouldn't shock anybody that Keith Elwin designs really fun, really accessible, really nice flowy games. I mean, that's not a shocker. This is no different. I mean, he hasn't really made a bad game to date. The guy knows how to design a fun game. Layout wise, this thing is very approachable. Nice flowy shots. When I first looked at it, just kind of seeing a top-down view of it, I thought everything was kind of maybe compartmentalized, and I was worried that, okay, it's going to feel like I'm playing sections of the playfield as opposed to the playfield as a whole. Not the case. Everything connected, interconnected very well. Deceptively flowy was the way we were kind of describing it when we were all kind of talking amongst ourselves, because we all kind of looked at it and had similar opinions where we thought, hey, maybe this isn't going to be as smooth and connected as we thought. And then, of course, we were wrong. Keith was right. He knows how to, again, connect the things geometrically and make everything so satisfying and so smooth. Once you get those shots figured out and dialed in, you're really going to have a good time with this. A lot of little aspects of it that I really enjoyed. It's got kind of two what I consider bailout shots straight up the middle. There's a big ramp up the middle, and there's also a spinner slightly off to its right. They're far back enough in the playfield that you can kind of safely rattle those off pretty regularly. And if you're struggling on what you're going to do next, or maybe trying to collect yourself, or get control of the ball, you can always kind of safely aim for one or two of those shots up the middle and not really have to worry about ball drains or anything like that. One of my absolute favorite shots on the game is the third flipper, kind of side ramp shot. Once you hit that, comes down the biplane, goes around, does a little curlicue action, which is a nice kind of callback to Godzilla, Lethal Weapon 3. It's a nice satisfactory eyesight to see that ball spinning around, going, and hear that biplane, audio cue. It's a really fun shot, and it's not as difficult as I was expecting. It looks like an uber steep ramp, but it's close enough to that flipper to where you didn't have to be the most sharp shooting person to hit it. Once you kind of figured out that timing, it was very accessible shot. Again, with that safe bailout up the middle with the spinner, I like that it feeds over to the little mini flipper on the left-hand side. There's some really cool interactivity going on over there. You can control this little logjam diverter that will kind of hold the ball over there for a little while. It is timed. You can hit the action button. If it's blinking, it'll bring that logjam up there. You can hold the ball on the mini flipper once that diverter is up, and then you can aim your shots up there. You can try to aim for the drop targets. If you clear out all 4 drop targets, that lights your lock, and then you can spam that middle shot 3 times to start your multi-ball. Of course, there's the Gong on the premium LEs. It does look like a very inviting shot. It is accessible with a backhand on the right-hand flipper, but it is somewhat complex, because you think, at first glance, I'll just hit it and the ball's gonna magically travel behind it. But oftentimes that ball will come right back at you if you don't hit it hard enough. That Gong, it's just going to take it a little bit and then it'll fire right back at you. So it is very tricky, and that's your mode start shot. So that does present some challenging obstacles for newcomers, but it is a fun shot to hit. And of course, the sound effect of the Gong going off as you hit it is a really cool feature. Other things, we got the magnet over there with the creepy spider on the premium LE. Could care less about the spider, but the magnet is, a nice little feature. Introduces some randomness without having pop bumpers around. The magnet will sling the ball around, cause you some chaos. And then the right side, the right orbit, if you will, you shoot that, it comes around, hits a banana kickback target that will either throw the ball back around, feed it to your upper third flipper, or if you don't get it enough gusto, sometimes it'll trickle down into a trough and then feed out up a vuck later on down the pinball playfield. A lot of cool stuff going on. Like I said, it doesn't necessarily look from the top-down view like a super flowy, connective gameplay experience, but in reality, it really is. So, great job, guys. In the state right now, obviously the code is early, as is with all brand new releases from Stern. Typically, a couple months go by and you'll get a couple significant updates that really kind of start polishing and finessing things. Only real obvious standouts to me while I was playing these games were that there was a couple of placeholders that were lacking the animation, but I was assured that, you know, those are very soon in the works. In fact, probably in the next 7 days will there be a code update that, you know, polishes and puts more of those animations out there. There's significant amount of call-outs. There's a nice tongue-in-cheek, you know, humor from some of these call-outs. Again, that remind me of those early 90s Bally Williams games in terms of humor. There's a lot of modes to go through right out of the gate. Obviously, it's not fully completed, but as it stands right now, there's plenty to see and do if you're an early adopter. If you're one of those people that needs this game right now, you're not going to get bored with it really quick. There's a lot of stuff you're going to see and explore, and I don't think you're going to be sitting there looking at it going, oh, this is just a box of blinking lights by any means. The star toy of the show, obviously, though, is King Kong himself. On the Premium LE, he's super animated, literally. Rotates around left, right, arms move up and down. He actually even reaches and touches the glass, which is a really cool feature. They said they're going to code that in there for, you know, like an attract mode where he's like smacking the glass, hey, come play me. Neat little thing that, you know, if you're walking in an arcade for the first time and you had a little tap on the glass and a call out that said, hey, come play me, put quarters in me or something like that, I think that would be an amazing, you know, experience, especially for younger audiences to see for the first time. But when it comes to the gameplay, it's really cool to see him interact. He'll, you know, trap the ball sometimes with his arm when it comes around the wire form. When it starts King Kong multiball and he smashes the subway car, there was a little cause for concern, at least on my part, a couple times where I saw the balls ejecting out of the back of the car. Sometimes they went out the right, sometimes they went to the left, sometimes they went both ways. The catapulting out the back of it is what I was maybe concerned with, because I could see that possibly, you know, hitting plastics and breaking plastics on the playfield, because I think as designed, it's all supposed to trickle down on the right side, but I could be wrong. But I did see a mix of, you know, balls going essentially everywhere on multiple occasions on the premium version. So that's one thing to keep in mind if you're one of those people that are going to be buying the premium LE ones. Just, you know, keep a lookout for it. And when it comes to the hotly debated topic of pro versus premium, which one should you get? Which one shoots better? Which one plays better? You could argue either way till the cows come home. Thankfully, this is not an example where the pro was, you know, stripped of all its life or anything. They did an excellent job of keeping the core gameplay experience, the shots, the layouts, and everything the same on the pro model versus the premium. The biggest difference between those two, on the premium, you've got a animatronic King Kong that moves around and interacts, catches the ball, touches the ball. He's got a subway car in front of him that, you know, moves up and throws the balls up in the air to start King Kong multi-ball. On the pro, it's just a stagnant, static, sculpted King Kong, which is actually an improvement over earlier pro models of earlier releases like Godzilla, where it was just flat acrylic plastics instead of molded, sculpted toys. This one, even though King Kong doesn't move on the pro, he's not a flat acrylic plastic. He's actually a sculpted toy, which is nice. There's also subtle changes, like there's a biplane on the premium that's a molded toy, and on the pro, it's just a bunch of plastics that are, you know, stacked together and interlocked kind of like a Lego, that actually look appealing, and honestly it's kind of impressive what they did with the flat plastics, but in reality it doesn't really add anything to the gameplay anyway, so that's just kind of a cosmetic change. Another cosmetic change is on the premium that has the spider that jumps up and down. Pro, there's nothing over there. Not a big loss in my opinion. I'm not a fan of the spider. I think he's kind of funny and, you know, hokey, but it doesn't really add to my gameplay experience. So I'm sure there's some modders out there that are going to add their own spider, and that'll be easy enough to do. But those are the main big massive changes. The one last remainder is the Kong Gong. The functional Gong target that's on the premium LE is no longer on the pro. It's just a flat plastic, so you just shoot that shot without any kind of hit. any kind of gong target, which does change the gameplay a little bit. So, you know, that's your mode starter shot. So you have less restrictions, if you will, on the Pro to hit that. But there are other things on gameplay on the Pro that are actually a little harder than they are on the Premium. So on the Premium, to start your multi-ball, you hit your drop targets down, you light your locks that way, and then you hit the middle shot 3 times, and you'll see 3 balls physically lock into the subway car. And once you lock that 3rd ball, it automatically starts King Kong multi-ball. On the Pro, it's a little different. Same thing, you're gonna hit your drop targets, you're gonna hit that middle shot 3 times for your virtual ball lock. Though once you virtually lock that 3rd ball, the multi-ball does not start automatically. You have to hit a 4th remaining shot to actually initiate the multi-ball. And that's actually the right orbit / you know, banana target. Once you hit that 4th shot, it actually initiates and, you know, starts the King Kong multi-ball that way. So it did take me a second to figure that out. Once I had 3 balls locked, I was staring at the screen. I was like, why is my multi-ball not started? And then I saw the bright blinking lights on the right orbit and said, oh, okay, now I gotta hit that to actually start the multi-ball. So little things like that, you know, change and differ the gameplay between Pro and Premium. But honestly, I think you're gonna be happy with either one. If you're the person that, you know, saw the trailer and said, oh my God, I need that King Kong. He looks so cool, you know, doing all these King Kong dances and hitting the glass and, you know, having all that animation. He's much more alive. If you saw that and you immediately said, yeah, I need that, then definitely go the Premium. If you just want a super flowy, fun gameplay experience, save a couple, you know, $1,000 in the process, then yeah, Pro model all day long. Because it is at its heart the same gameplay experience. At the end of the day, King Kong is not an IP that I've ever really cared about. I don't have any kind of personal connection to it. I've watched, you know, movies that have been out there for years, but again, it's not the most favorite desired thing out there. Godzilla wasn't either, and Godzilla is probably one of my, you know, top 10 favorite games of all time, as is probably a lot of people out there in the world. Fantastic game, keeps you coming back. I think King Kong's gonna fit that box for a lot of people as well. I don't think there's a lot of people that were clamoring and demanding a King Kong IP game, but the game's just so fun to shoot. It's got cool shots, it's got, you know, campy humor, it's well designed, it's gonna have amazing code thanks to, you know, the team. I just think it's going to be one of those things where you look at it and say, okay, King Kong, whatever. You could call this, you know, the Amish Paradise pinball experience, and as long as it had that same design team, I still think it would have been a winner. Again, I know, play it for yourself, you be the judge, but I honestly think that this is going to be another one of those hits that's, you know, on the assembly line for a long time for Stern, because it's just going to be an enjoyable experience for pinball players, experienced or newcomers alike. So guys, let me know your thoughts and your opinions down in the comments below. What do you think of the King Kong pinball machine that has just been released from Stern Pinball? Are you interested in King Kong? Do you not care about King Kong? You're just interested in a Keith Elwin game? Let me know your thoughts and opinions. If you enjoyed the content, make sure you hit that like button. Share this video with your friends if you found the information helpful. And as always, thanks for watching, guys. It really means a lot.